Shinobi Striker's in a weird place. I'm not gonna lie. It is such a weird game to sit down and analyze in terms of when you're talking about anime games. I feel like half the population, right, is, hey, this game came out and they've been grinding it ever since, and they let it content, they let it updates, and they in tune with the idea of Shinobi Striker and the potential that it has. And there's another half of the population that was like not really rocking with it on release, didn't like the way it was executed, thought the game was lacking a lot of features, felt unfinished, right? And kind of still have been standing on that same leg since. So it's kind of weird because you have this group of people who love the game and a group of people who hate the game, and there's no general idea of what the game actually is. A lot of time with anime games, you can kind of narrow it down whether this was a bad game, this was a good game, regardless of how many people like, how many people don't. Like people who like JJK can still say, people will still tell you this was a bad game. Even though I like it, I had fun with it, it was a bad game. But you ask someone who likes Shinobi Striker if it's a bad game, they're gonna give you a list of reasons of why it's one of the greatest anime games ever. Right now, if you ask someone who hates Shinobi Striker or dislike it or didn't like it, they're gonna give you a list of reasons why it sucks. So with that being said, bro, I figured we just dive into the conversation today of Shinobi Striker 2 and what that could mean for Shinobi Striker as a whole. So with that being said, man, let's get it. So first things first, I want to take a look at the latest trailer for Shinobi Striker, the latest update trailer for Shinobi Striker. That way we can kind of get a glimpse. If you're not in tune with what's going on, you can get an idea of like the content that they drop and the stuff that they putting out and what it's looking like in today's day and age, because the content and updates they putting out today for Shinobi Striker look very different from what was being put out upon release, right? So Kimimaro was the latest DLC character, right? And I think he's a welcome addition, right? He's a nice, cool. I think he fit well in this game. And with this trailer, they actually confirmed a season 10. This was the completion of season 9. They actually confirmed a season 10, which is crazy to think about because at this point, who else do they add to the game? Because they've added so many different characters. They re-rock so many different characters, from young Naruto to young Sasuke to the PTS characters to the Boruto characters. At this point, they probably go Indra, Ashura, Six Paths, maybe some classic characters like Shino, Kiba, but who knows, bro? There's so many different characters they add in this game. And every time you think they're gonna add somebody extravagant, they go back to the basics and add a Kimimaro or a Kakuzu or a Hidan or something like that. But even though those characters sound bland in their own right, they are very unique when it comes to this game. It's not like you're getting a Storm character, you're getting a unique character. So Season Pass, obviously, like you said, they got all types of things now, the different jutsus and ultimates you can get. And then scrolls. Scrolls are an entirely different thing in itself. So this right here was like this peak Shinobi Striker content, bro. The fact they adding this as a fighting style, you get the Rock Lee movement and 8 Gates kind of gameplay, and you get like a Kakashi blade, which kind of emulates Kakashi's fighting style. So these SS plus weapons that they showing off here are kind of like the peak of Shinobi Striker in terms of what's keeping it alive and what makes it cool, in my opinion, right? Because there was a time where it was dry, but they kind of used this system to kind of revamp it. And obviously you got the season 10 confirmation. Okay, so obviously, right, if you just taking a glimpse at that, right, you can see what kind of stuff is going on. They add new characters, new costumes, new weapons, fighting styles, all of that, right? That's the kind of good part of Shinobi Striker that people see, and myself included. Every time I see one of these update content videos, I want to be like, damn, I want to get back into Shinobi Striker. You know what I mean? I played Shinobi Striker heavy for the first 3-4 years. Make no mistake, bro, I am an ally to the Shinobi Striker community. I really rock with Shinobi Striker. I just can't get into it because in its current state, like I said, to get those weapons and everything is kind of grindy, right? Either you dishing out money or they implemented the gacha a little bit, and I think that's kind of where I draw the line. Because every time I spend money trying to get an item, I brick. I go to the shop, I go to 1010, and I brick every time. So you can feel a little out of place if you're coming in there with some stuff from 2018, 2019, 2020, like some jutsu whatever from there, you try to get on now, and you plan to get some demons that got every update drop, every SS plus weapon drop, you can feel a little out of place for sure. But let's get into this talk about Shinobi Striker 2, right? All right, man, let's do it. Let's talk Shinobi Striker. Let's talk about Shinobi Striker and what I think the game needs in the space that the games need to be in, right? as I already told y'all, bro, it's such a weird space where half the population really rocks with the game hard, half the population think it's a failure, right? And I think the middle ground, those like me who are in the middle ground, who really like the idea of the game, but for some of us, it's just missing a few important details, could really benefit in like a huge update for Shinobi Striker. Now, I'm not comparing the two games, but if you remember when Overwatch 1 was out and they announced Overwatch 2, and and I'm only using Overwatch as an example because it's also a hero shooter, although, in terms of relevancy and success, it blows any anime game, let alone Shinobi Striker, out the water. But when they announced Overwatch 2, it wasn't a full-on sequel to Overwatch 1. It was more like a big, gigantic update to Overwatch 1. And they announced it as Overwatch 2. Right now, I think that concept would extremely benefit Shinobi Striker, where if you take the foundation, right, you take the product, because it is a decent product on service, it is a decent gaming product. If you take that foundation and you implement some major upgrades and modifications and implement some new features to the game to pump new life into it, and you drop it as Shinobi Striker 2, I think you could bring in that middle ground that's kind of undecided on the game. And you could also bring in some newcomers, some people that's willing to try it for the first time, as well as some people who did try it but didn't like the original product that was put out for them. You could bring them back and be like, hey, maybe I give it another shot. Maybe I give it another try and just see, you know what I mean? Because I do think the game I think the reason people who rock with this game and have played it for so long is because the potential was always there from jump. You saw the potential from jump, and it was like, let me see what they do going down the line. Let me see what they add to the game, what they bring to the game, what they explore. And they've been doing a good job of that, in my opinion. I just think there's a couple things that they're missing the ball on, right? If I'm being honest. One, the optimization. The optimization is poor. When I say poor, I mean the game feels unfinished. I remember, I'm such a Shinobi Striker Day 1 OG, bro. I played every beta leading up to Shinobi Striker's release, August 30th, 2018. That's when the game released. But every beta before that, I was there. And in the betas, I remember the game crashing. I remember, bad servers. And I was like, okay, it's a beta. I remember just loading the games where it's a 3v4 or 2v4 or in a long loading screens. Sometimes the loading screens are like 2 to 3 minutes. Sometimes the loading screens are like 5 to 7 minutes, right? I remember that. And I'm thinking, hey, it's a beta. So when the final game dropped, they're going to improve this. It won't be like this. Well, the final game dropped and it was like that. Like, that was the product, and that's the same product we have today. The loading screens are still iffy. It might be 2 minutes, it might be 5, it might be 7. You might load to a 2v4, a 3v4, and waste your time, or try to fight an uphill battle like that, or your game might just straight up crash, right? Out of every 3 Shinobi Striker games, you either gonna crash, the game gonna crash, or your teammate gonna crash, and that's just what it is. So for someone trying to say, I see the DLC trailer and I see the content drop, I'm like, hey, let me try to dive back into Shinobi Striker and see what that's like these days. And I load up, boom, my game crashed. All right, first go around, I ain't gonna trip too much. I get back in there, I reboot the game. Okay, I sit through a 5-minute loading screen. I load into a match. It's a 3v4. It's a 3v4, and I'm going against one of these clans who never stopped playing the game, got every SS plus weapon, and they a full group of 4 or whatever. So you know what that's like. All right, or then, it's just like, bro, how do you get people to come back to this if they're not already dedicated to investing time into the game with all of these optimization issues? 2026, you shouldn't tell anybody on the game that's released on multiple consoles that you're playing the game the wrong way because you have it on Xbox. That shouldn't be a thing. Right now, I'm someone who owns the game both on Xbox and PS5, originally on Xbox. So I've dealt with the crashes and the bad experience firsthand, and I moved over to PS5 and I understand, oh, this is a better product on PS5. For whatever reason, it just runs smoother. But there is no reasoning for that because Xbox is not, if not more capable of better running games, it's just as capable as a PlayStation 5. Regardless of where you sit on the console world, you're not going to tell me otherwise. They're both equally in terms of value, in terms of how well they can run a game. So to say one console is just straight up not going to be able to play the game, you're cutting off half your player base right there. Right? You're cutting off half the player base right there. And you look at anything revolving Shinobi Striker, and people say, when people have these complaints, they say the game crashes, it's laggy, the servers are bad. They say, "Are you playing? That's because you play it on Xbox." Shouldn't be a thing, right? Now that's just optimization. I think that's the main thing they need to focus on. Damn the characters and weapons and all that. It's enough characters and content in the game right now. Let's get some optimizations going. You know what I mean? Let's update that. Let's take our foundation and let's finish the actual game. Let's finish the product. Another thing I'm gonna go into is the PvE. I do think they fumbled the PvE. And as anybody that's like familiar with this channel, I can give a damn about PvE. All right, in an online anime game, bro, I'm there for the scraps. I'm there for playing with other people, fighting other people, fight with my friends. I'm not a PvE guy, but I do think they fumbled it because the way this game is set up, right, in comparison to its predecessor, Xenoverse, because if you're going to compare the game, you have to compare it to Xenoverse, because without a Xenoverse, you don't get a Shinobi Striker. So if you compare the two in terms of PvE, Xenoverse blows Shinobi Striker out of the water is not even close. It's not even close, because the PvE is so dry and repetitive, and it's so limited as far as you play every mission, whether you're fighting Sand Ninja Grunts, whether you're fighting the Ten Tails or the boss battles, you play every mission the same exact way as Shinobi Striker, right? You play every mission the same exact way. You're just going through the motions until you check the box. And that's kind of what it is. They could have put a little bit more time into that, but I'm not going to speak too much on the PvEs. I'm not a PvE guy, but I do think there's potential there. I do think there's great potential there for people who don't want to get online and get stumped by a full clan running meta jutsus and meta weapons. That's another area of the game that could potentially bring in a whole new player base. But if you just get on this game and say, "I'm gonna just play PvE, I don't really feel like going through online," as it is now, the PvE is not worth the time. It feel like you playing like a Naruto simulator or something. Like you just going through the motions. But there's that. Okay, combat. All right, we talk about the combat. I don't think the combat need crazy tweaks. Like I said, the foundation is there. Definitely, the potential, everything is there. You've introduced all these new SS Plus weapons and new jutsus and collaboration ultimates, and I think that's really cool. I think that's really good for Shinobi Striker. I think that's what everyone wanted for Shinobi Striker when the game originally released. We was like, man, the limits of what this game could be, right? As you see on the trailer, they got the new Rock Lee weighted 8 gates fighting style. I think that's really cool. But with the introduction of all these high-powered weapons and all these high-powered jutsus and systems, the defensive mechanics were never really updated. You know what I mean? Like the movement is very stiff. For an average, new coming player, the movement is going to feel very stiff. And a lot of these jutsus, a lot of these weapons have very good tracking. And it's feel like it's going to be hard to get around a lot of this stuff if you're not an experienced, tech developed Shinobi Striker player. Just on the surface, you're gonna be like, bro, it's no way for me to defend myself, right? Everything either tracks you, either guard breaks, either stun locks you, or locks your substitution. Like everyone's running something of that nature. Nobody's just running base jutsu anymore. Everybody's always, because they've introduced all these different weapons. So it's one of those things you're gonna have to deal with. So if you get on the game for the first time and you're not suited and booted and ready to deal with that, you're gonna feel like you don't got a chance. You're gonna feel like you don't got a chance, bro. So I do think that's the area they need to kind of revamp a little bit. Is like, give me some more defensive options. Give me more like a useful parry. Give me like some better movement, some quicker movement options, like, or something. I don't want to have to equip. I don't want to have to take up a jutsu slot and just to use it. You know what I mean? Just to use a movement ability. You know what I mean? Like, give me something, right? So I do think this area improvement is just kind of like the defensive side of the combat. I think offensively, they've really gotten their flow together in terms of how they want offense to be played in Shinobi Striker. But in a team-based game, you kind of don't want to have to go offense versus offense the entire round. Game modes and maps. Now, maps they have gotten better with in the recent years as far as adding maps. Because for the first couple years there were only like 4 playable maps total. I think you had the Leaf Village, Leaf Village, Sand, Cloud, and 2 Leaf Villages, two Leaf Villages, might have been 2 Sands. I don't know. It was very limited maps, and those are the same maps and rotations for years. Now they started to add some more maps or whatever, or kind of like take those variations of maps and switch them around a little bit, and you know that's cool. You know that's doable. But I do think they can kind of explore the maps a little bit if they were to update the game. That's some area I think they can improve in, right? Also, right now with this new scroll system, let's talk about the scroll system, right? And the gacha system in this game. I don't think this was originally their plan on how they wanted this to play out, but it's come to a point where it's pretty much a gacha game, because when they drop all this content, the new costumes, the new weapons, the new ninja tools, they're locked in the shop behind 1010 or DLC. Right now, the DLC comes with some stuff, but it's not as good as the stuff you're going to get in the shop. And to get the stuff out of the shop, you have to obtain scrolls. So if you're not grinding the game every day and getting scrolls, esoteric scrolls, which are, I'm not gonna say they're the hardest thing to come by, but it's not easy for an average player. Like, you're not just gonna get on the game and get them. A lot of these items, a lot of the cool stuff is gonna be locked. You're not gonna be able to get it. Now you can buy scrolls, and which is why I said this wasn't their plan originally, because you always couldn't just go to the Xbox store or the PlayStation store and just buy scrolls. And if you could, they weren't really worth it there. You could just, but now you can just buy scrolls, as many scrolls as you want, and you can keep pulling until you get the item you want. So if you're going to implement that, I think the next step they need to introduce, if they were to do a Shinobi Striker 2, it needs to be free to play. You can keep your scroll system, you can keep your gacha system, even though I dislike it. I much rather be able to just, if I want to pay my money for the item I want. So if I want this costume, if I want this weapon, I can go to the shop. There's some type of in-game currency I can convert to. I can buy that in-game currency with my IRL money, and I can buy that item. I don't want to have to buy a scroll or a roll or something, because every time I bought scrolls of Shinobi Striker, because I'm like, damn, that looked cool. That item looked really tough. I really want that. I really want that Boruto fan. I really want that sword, those nunchucks. I buy scrolls and I break. Every time I break. And it's like, bro, it's no worse feeling from someone that's not really tapped into gacha world to like feeling like they just got robbed on some gacha stuff, bro. But that's another conversation. All right, so we talked about the PvP, the PvE and stuff like that. I think they need to integrate a little bit more. I think they need to add like another player. I think 5v5, maybe not 6v6. Maybe not 6v6, because that might be too much. It might be too chaotic. But I think 5v5, yeah, I think 5v5 would be the right spot for Shinobi Striker. 5v5 with some more game modes, some revamp the game modes. You have combat battle, which is basically your team deathmatch, and you're capturing a flag. That's cool. And base battle. Barrier mode, they need to take that completely out the game. It's so bad. They don't even put barrier mode in Ninja World League. So maybe add an escort mode or something like that. But yeah, they need maybe another game mode or two, and maybe 5v5. And speaking of Ninja World League, I think it's very weird in 2026 that the game, and I don't know if it's still like this, but the last time I played, this is how it was. The competitive modes in this game rotate. And I think that's weird. I don't think that's a formula for success. Whereas you have Ninja World League, which will be available, they'll give you these set dates. Like, this is when the Ninja World League is open. And you'll play, you'll compete, and you'll try to, grind your rake up for surprises to get rewards or whatever. And I think that's fine. And then once that event ends, they'll change it to Ninja Pro Festival or the survival exercise. And I just think for a successful game, bro, if you're gonna have a competitive mode, that competitive mode needs to be available at all times. I shouldn't get on the game, come up with this new build, new loadout, get the item I want. Let's say I do go to this shop and I do pull the scroll that I want, and now I got this item for my CMC and I really want to take it online, but the competitive mode is not, it's Ninja Pro Hero Festival and there's no CACs allowed. So now I can't even use my CAC in the competitive mode that the game's offering. So I had to go in quick match and maybe run into a barrier battle or something like that. which is the last thing you want to do. I do think they need to just have a dedicated competitive mode, and you can also add pro hero mode as a mode in its own. I think enough people will play that. The people who don't like run into a bunch of broken CAC stuff, like all the CAC weapons and tools and all that, and you just want to play strictly OG Naruto characters, I think there's an audience for that. I think you can have that entirely as its own mode. You can have survival exercises as its own mode, which it already is, and you could just have a Ninja World League, which is the ranked or competitive mode, and leave that alone and let that just be the base competitive mode. Now, content to justify Shinobi Striker 2, they don't need much. They don't need much content, right? You take something from Boruto, right? You bring in a couple Boruto characters, like the rest of the cast that's not already in the game, like Shikade, Inogen. And you maybe get an updated Boruto, updated Kaoki, updated Sarata, you know what I mean? Like a couple of those characters. Add some OG characters from Naruto that's not in the game. Your Kiba, your Shino, who else? Just, you know, some of those characters, right? That's not already in the game. And, you know, just do what you've been doing as far as content, like the weapons and the characters and stuff like that, because that's already a successful formula in itself, right? But that's a reward. Like I said, that's a high level reward for the people that already rock with Shinobi Striker. Nothing about the content that's dropping now is going to bring newcomers to the game, or is going to bring older players back to the game. I think it's going to be like, oh, this is cool. I'm glad they bring this to the game, because I've been playing it and I'm interested to keep playing it with this new stuff. But if I'm looking on the surface of someone who's never played the game or not currently playing the game, it's not enough to bring me back to the game or reinstall it. So you have enough, like content wise, to just say, to push out in a big update. You know what I mean? And say, hey, here's a couple new characters, couple new maps, couple new game modes. We retuning the optimization. You know what I mean? We retuning the visuals. I don't even care about the visuals. You know what I mean? I don't even care about the visuals. But just retune. We retuning the lobbies, right? They talked about custom lobbies like years ago. They brought up custom lobbies. Like the devs brought up custom lobbies like years ago, and we still don't have it. So just say that. Just say that for Shinobi Striker 2. I think custom lobbies will go crazy. You got all these self-proclaimed clans that's just running around, that's just teaming up and just trying to beat on everybody. Let them do their own thing in the custom lobbies, and they can have their clan battles or whatever. And I feel like that's a huge grab right there in itself. Obviously, the game needs to have crossplay. But as we know with anime games, bro, that's not always a guarantee. But I do think if they really would want this to be a banger, which it could very well be, because it's right there. Shinobi Striker 2 is right there. They try to figure out what to do with the next Naruto game or next Naruto franchise. Bro, Shinobi Striker is right there. And you're going to say that the first one is not successful and a lot of people don't like it. And I'm telling you the reason they don't like it. And I'm telling you, if you fix this, a lot of people will be like, hey, this is actually pretty dope. Because right now, as it stands, a lot of people can come back to Shinobi Striker and give it a shot. And I'm sure like 50% of them will be like, oh, this is really dope. You know what I mean? But the issues on the surface is what's stopping that from happening. Whether you really rock with Shinobi Striker or not, bro, I just really want to hear your thoughts on, is this something y'all think could be feasible? Do y'all think it could happen? I really think it should happen, especially in the point in time we in right now, where everyone's kind of waiting for that next original Naruto game. Obviously, Shinobi Striker is still going strong as far as content and updates. The Storm series is what it is. I think Connections was that last hoorah to Storm. And it's not to say Connections is good or bad, but they stopped updating, they stopped releasing content for it. It is what it is. It is Storm as we know it for the most part, right? A lot of people want the Clash of Ninja series to come back, and Ultimate Ninja, things like that. There's been no talk of that. There's been no mention of that. Although how great it would be, I think this is something that can keep like Naruto games in the hood for the next couple years while they come up with that next original Naruto title. But that's just me though. Like I said, I'm interested to hear y'all thoughts and opinions, man. Let me know how y'all feel about Shinobi Striker in its current state, how y'all feel about a Shinobi Striker 2, and is that something y'all would tap into, man? So with that being said, man, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Let's get it, yo.